I've shot this video like 4 times and keep getting depressed. Yeah, the shop cats, they keep me happy. So, unfortunately, these little critters don't like dogs. I'd rather have a dog. But these little fuzzy butts, they love me, so I'm keeping them. 4.2. This one is bad sensor. You see the wire is cut right there. Yep, that's about 300 bucks. Timing on it supposedly was already done at 75,000. I don't trust it, so I've got to open it up, take a look at it. It's $3,000 for all the timing components if I want to keep this motor. I'm not sure if I want to deal with it anymore. They are wicked motors. They're badass. 40 valves. They sound sexy. They've got good power, but they also have limits. Financial limits too. The engine mount is pretty much ripped up on this one. So I'm going to have to use the mounts that are on the car. They're electronically controlled hydraulic mounts. So you get frisky with the throttle and it closes a valve, and the hydraulic fluid or the oil inside gets locked into place and it goes solid. So the engine has no torsional twist to it. If they fail, they're expensive. Even the replacements, the solid mounts, the aftermarket mounts, they're 300 bucks. So everything about this is expensive. We're going to go VR6. Everything about those are cheap. It's kind of funny. A couple of groups that I'm in right now, they're selling nickel dime parts for a lot of money. And transmission adapters, they're raping and pillaging for the transmission adapters. The passenger and driver side motor mounts for the VR6 or the VR5 motor and the Passat, and I believe the Tiguan also uses similar mounts. They are, a couple $100, but they're picking them up from the junkyard overseas and selling them to people here in the States that are doing VR6 swaps and eliminating that 4.2 V8, and they're making a killing on it. But believe it or not, that's engine mounts for me. The entire swap is going to cost me the replacement engine mounts. So this guy right here is a 2.0T rebuilt turbo. Didn't clean it up. You can't even tell I actually touched it, but it's got all new internals in it. Took the intake off and cleaned the ports. Did the cylinder head. Got the intake ports on the cylinder head cleaned up. And the only way you could tell I've done it is right there. Some walnut shell from doing the blasting. And that is just as dirty as it once was. The injectors are resealed. I'll end up cleaning the motor later. Function over form. Put the 1.8T oil pump conversion on, eliminated that 20-pound balancer shaft, and so it'll have a little bit faster spin up. Wasn't meant to be performance, just meant to be repaired and reliable. High pressure fuel pump, took it off. Cam follower is good, camshaft is good, everything on it's clean. I did find plastic in the oil pan. So I'm going to take the top off and inspect, make sure that the timing guides are good and make sure everything on the PCV valve system is good, because we actually found a piece of plastic about half-inch square, and the part numbers matched up with EVAP and PCV stuff. So this is a motor that is going to get modified for the Mythic TT. We just needed the short block. This is built up already. It's got scat rods. Don't know what the pistons are, but even if they're factory pistons, they'll hold up. Factory pistons, I believe, are good for between 700 to 800 horsepower. This was a 3076 super or turbo. Don't know what it was putting out, but it was pretty wicked. Only a couple thousand miles on it. We're gonna run it and take the Mythic motor and make it more mythical. Stroke it, love it. Go with some cams, but we're not looking at making any more power right now. We're just trying to make it a little bit more reliable. Got to get into the transmission eventually, and yeah, the transmission is going to have to get some love, some billet shift forks, straight cut gears, maybe do a dog box. This one is one that we pretty much stole. We got the built motor and this AWP motor. Dirt cheap. Matter of fact, to pay for this motor was, I could sell the coil packs for what we paid for that motor. 10,000 miles on a rebuild, and then the guy wrecked it. We didn't need it, but at that cost, the guy was just trying to get rid of it. Sure, why not? We'll take it off your hands. It's a good backup for one of the other cars that we have, and it'll give us a good foundation for building something else. But for now, don't really need it. We're just going to store it. I need to wrap it up. Unfortunately, this guy right here, we don't know too much about the cylinder head. It was a high-performance build. It's supposedly a fully built motor, but we have to pull the springs out and measure the spring rates so that we know whether or not it'll handle the 8,500 RPM that our tuner set it up with. So Mythic goes to 8,500, and the Mythic is running SuperTech springs. Also, Inconel exhaust valves. When you're pushing 650 crank horsepower, those gases get a little hot. Unfortunately, we can't tell whether or not those are Inconel. There's no way to tell. Been onto a couple forums to see how to identify the valves. There's really no markings on the valves, so anybody have a way to identify whether or not they're Inconel valves? Let me know. One of the things that I was told is that the stem is magnetic and the head is not, or vice versa. Don't know. But these are the first of a series. The owner of this motor actually pulled off his one-way clutch off of his alternator, his tensioner pulley, his crank, his power steering pump, and mailed them into this guy that ended up using them as a template and making these. And he sold these guys. These are actually the first that came out from being anodized. He got them for free for sending in his. Mythic can't use it because Mythic uses a fluid dampener. And yeah, tensioner pulley and alternator and power steering pump, sure. But for high horsepower, you got to have a pinned crank. Well, this is not pinned, and fluid dampener. So for reliability reasons, we got to change all that. And we have in this plastic bag a large port AEB head, and there's the intake. There's really no need for it. We're not going to hit the horsepower numbers required to run it. As an example of what I'm talking about, this is a big port gasket on a small port head. With the 5-valve cylinder head, just some mild porting, all it needs. So Mythic is running small port and 650 crank, so why would you need a big port? The integrated engineering intake is actually a big port intake with a 3D printed reducer. So it goes from a large port intake to a small port head. And that's on stock cams. Surprisingly, a lot of the stuff on that build is stock. There's the turbo off the Mythic TT, Precision 6062, and it's getting ready to play again really soon. And here's the sad stuff. In the crates is all the Super Coupe stuff. I've got pistons, rods, oil pumps, everything. Got to get the block taken out, cleaned, bored, and put together. And we're probably going to be down to one Super Coupe 95 5-speed. And yeah, let's cull the herd a little bit. We got too much junk. As you could tell, after moving into the house, our storage unit got emptied into here, and my collection of bullshit has just grown. Zinc coating, half of my powder coating. I've got the oven in the shed. I've got work to do. I've got to get those cleaned up. I've got more valve covers in that box. I want to polish up a couple of these intakes. Hopefully cleaning up some of this stuff and selling it will help fund getting other cars put back together. I don't know. We got there's some Super Coupe parts, jack shaft pulley and water pump pulley, and I've got some overdrive stuff. I actually have a few sets of pulleys in the cases, but yeah, it's been a lot of work. Struggling to find motivation to get some videos done. Much stuff has changed. I have very little time to film and a lot of work to do. So I will start putting some videos out of the Mythic build. Who doesn't love a 650 crank horsepower car? 562 at the wheels, and that's driving the transfer case, the drive shaft, and spinning the viscous fluid in the Haldex unit with the Haldex unit unplugged. So you're really not getting all wheel horsepower numbers, but being that you have just as much parasitic loss with those tires just sitting there. I would have loved to use the FLIR to see how hot the Haldex unit was getting, being that you're spinning it, that hard, and the tires are stationary. So the parasitic loss is probably damn near close to all-wheel horsepower. 562 it's impressive. So this motor It's going to be putting some grunt in.